Bruchim haba and welcome everyone to a special edition of All Parsha on Parshas Seitzei, the Chasam Sofer on Parshas Seitzei. Very excited to share with you this offering from the Chasam Sofer live from Melbourne, Australia. This offering is found in the Chasam Sofer in the Drashos Chasam Sofer. The first two subjects in Parshas Seitzei is the subject of the Eishes Yifas Tayar. If a man goes to war and he sees a beautiful woman, the Torah gives allowance to take her, provided that he does the procedure of Yifas Tayar, followed by the subject of Ben Soirer Umayra. And Rashi says, why do Chazal allow somebody to take a Eishes Yifas Tayar? Say Chazal, Dibra Torah Keneged Yetzer Hara. The Torah speaks in context, understanding the power of the Yetzer Hara. Why? Because Chazal say, Ad sheyisa'ena be'isr, instead of taking her unlawfully, will allow you to take her, you will take her beheter. Meaning we understand that at a time of war, passions flare, and the man would not be able to overcome his Yetzer Hara, so we give an allowance, because if we don't, he's going to end up doing the Avera anyway. But then Rashi says, why is the story of Yifas Tayar juxtaposed to a Ben Soirer Umayra? To teach that yes, you're allowed to take the Yifas Tayar, but you should know, if you take her, you're not going to see a lot of nachas from your children. You're going to have a child who will be wicked and veer off the straight and the narrow. So the reason why the Ben Soirer Umayra follows the Yifas Tayar is to teach that if you do take the Yifas Tayar, the children produced will not be righteous. So the Chasam Sofer asks in his drashas, wait a second. If the reason why somebody is allowed to take Yifas Tayar is because the Torah understands the power of the Yetzer Hara, and if we don't allow this man to marry her permissively, he's going to end up taking her anyway, then how can we tell him that, yeah, take her, but you're going to have children who are wicked? Well, then we don't understand the power of the Yetzer Hara, because we're not really giving him a viable option. We're saying, yeah, go ahead and marry her, but then the children are going to be wicked? So how is that showing understanding for the power of the Yetzer Hara, where we say, yeah, you can have the drink, but it's going to kill you. Yeah, you can live with this woman, but your children are going to be rotten and lousy. So how is that consistent? How do these two teachings of Chazal, how could they be reconciled? Does the Torah really understand the power of the Yetzer Hara? Or is this a punishment for giving in to your Yetzer Hara? You know, it's very interesting. The Gemara in Masechta Sanhedrin says that David HaMelech wanted to serve idols. So the Gemara says, David HaMelech wanted to serve idols? Yeah, because he had a son who was a Ben Soirer Umayra, who was trying to kill him, and David HaMelech thought it was a Chil Hashem that someone of his stature should have such a wicked son. So he figured if he serves idols, it won't be Chil Hashem. People will understand that that because he served idols, he had this terrible fate of a son who was a Ben Soirer Umayra. In other words, David HaMelech felt that people would look at his difficult family situation and question the ways of Hashem. Why does this righteous person have such a lousy child? But if he would go ahead and serve idols, so now people would understand why this happened to him. And they said to David HaMelech, nobody's going to wonder why you had a son who's a Ben Soirer Umayra. They know why you had a son who's a Ben Soirer Umayra, because David lived with the Yifas Tayar. And the Chazal say, if you live with Yifas Tayar, you're going to have a Ben Soirer Umayra. So David HaMelech said, you know what, I'm not going to serve idols. So the Chasam Sofer asks, David HaMelech didn't know that if you live with Yifas Tayar, you're going to have a Ben Soirer Umayra? He didn't know Rashi. He didn't know what Chazal tell us. He had to go think of serving idols to justify why he had a Ben Soirer Umayra. He knew the reason he had a Ben Soirer Umayra should have been because he lived with Yifas Tayar. So Chasam Sofer says a revolutionary idea. Says the Chasam Sofer, there are two kinds of people. There's some people who legitimately, when they go to war and passions flare, they will not be able to overcome their temptation. For them, they're allowed to take Yifas Tayar, and if they do, they'll have children who are tzaddikim. After all, they did their best, and the Torah gave them an allowance because the Torah understands the power of the Yetzer Hara. But there are going to be other people who really could overcome the Yetzer Hara. And they say, well, I'm going to war, and I'm allowed to take the Yifas Tayar, so why not? Now's my chance. But they didn't have to take the Yifas Tayar. They could have overcome the Yetzer Hara. For them, they shouldn't take her. And if they do, they're going to have children who are wicked. Says the Chasam Sofer, David HaMelech underestimated his own greatness. When he was in war and he saw Yifas Tayar, he really could have overcome. but David HaMelech underestimated his strength. He thought he couldn't overcome. And therefore, when he had a Ben Saira Moira, it didn't dawn on him that the reason he's having a Ben Saira Moira is because he should have and could have overcome his Yetzer Hara. So therefore, David HaMelech needed to justify what happened to him by planning on serving idols. But it was told to David, David, you underestimated your own greatness. You really could have overcome taking the Yifas Tayar. And the reason why you have a Ben Saira Moira is because you gave in too easily. And from this Chasam Sofer, we see a very important lesson. Even a great tzaddik like David HaMelech underestimated his own power and his own kayach to overcome the Yetzer Hara. So in other words, the Chasam Sofer learns that there are two situations. Someone who really cannot overcome the Yetzer Hara, he is allowed to take the Yifas Tayar, and he will not have a Ben Saira Moira. Somebody who could overcome his temptation, for them, they're not allowed to take the Yifas Tayar, and if they do, like David HaMelech did, they will have a Ben Saira Moira. This is the amazing offering of the Chasam Sofer to the episode of Yifas Tayar and Ben Saira Moira. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos. Haba Aleinu L'Tova.